Hey there, Night Owl. Tonight's story is not one for the faint of heart. Dim your lights, turn the volume just low enough to feel like a whisper, and let the soft hum of your fan remind you you're still above ground for now. Because tonight we are going below, far below. Welcome to the Paris Catacombs, a hidden world beneath the romantic city of lights. But this story isn't about cafes or croissants. It's about what happens when you wander too deep, when curiosity becomes survival, when you take a wrong turn under Paris and the only direction left is down. Now, breathe in, nice and slow. Imagine it's midnight. You're in Paris, but not the version with glittering Eiffel Towers and accordion music. No. You're standing beside a nondescript door in the 14th arrondissement. A rusted metal gate. No signs. No tourists. Just silence. You duck under a low stone arch. Click on your flashlight and step inside. Instantly, the city disappears. The world narrows to a tunnel barely taller than you carved out of limestone centuries ago. The ceiling drips, the walls sweat, and the air, it smells like damp stone and old secrets. Congratulations, you've entered the catacombs, and you're already lost. At first, it's exciting, like a secret mission. Your boots squish slightly in the mud. Your light dances over graffiti from decades of explorers. Names etched in the walls. Dates, some recent, some from the 1800s. You pass skulls, stacked neatly perfectly. Eye sockets watching silently from behind the stone. You laugh nervously to yourself. This is fine. It is not fine, because the deeper you go, the quieter it gets. Cell signal dies. The temperature drops. Time becomes fuzzy. Minutes feel like hours. Your footsteps echo too loudly. You start whispering to yourself just to hear another voice. Left turn. Then the big pillar. Okay. Now right at the carving. Except wait, was it right or was it left? You shine your light back the way you came, but it all looks the same. Every tunnel is a copy of the last. Wet stone. Low ceilings. Crumbling graffiti. A faint, chalky smell of decay. You keep moving. Faster now. Flashlight beam twitching from wall to wall. You start to feel like the walls are getting closer, like the air is heavier. That is not just fear. It's the weight of 6 million dead. In the late 1700s, the cemeteries of Paris were overflowing. The city was quite literally sinking under the weight of its dead. Bones piled so high that walls collapsed, groundwater-tainted disease spread. So Paris did what any city would do. It buried its dead in secret. Beneath the streets, into old limestone quarries dating back to Roman times, they relocated the remains of over 6 million souls, carted off at night. Priests whispered prayers as bones were piled by candlelight. Femurs, skulls, ribs, stacked like firewood, artfully arranged, a city of the dead under the city of the living. But they didn't just build tombs, They built a maze, hundreds of kilometers of winding, intersecting tunnels, unmapped, unlit, unforgiving. Some are just shoulder width wide. Others open into vast chambers with dripping ceilings and pillars carved from stone. There are legends of rooms deep underground with black altars, of bones arranged in symbols no one speaks aloud, of explorers who never returned, and their cameras found years later footage ending in darkness. And now it's just you. You were supposed to turn around by now. This was just going to be a fun little midnight explore. A story for your friends back home. But the turns didn't match the map. Or maybe you dropped the map hours ago. Who knows? Your flashlight flickers just once. You freeze. Not because you heard something, but because you didn't. No dripping water, no echo of footsteps, no sound at all. That is when the panic begins to bloom. Not loud, but quiet, like a cold hand on the back of your neck. You spin around, backtrack, but the paths twist like a knot, and your light catches something on the wall. A word, arrête, c'est ici l'empire de la mort. Stop. This is the empire of the dead. You stare at it for a moment too long. Then you move. Some say time doesn't exist down here, that the catacombs eat your sense of reality first. You could be down here for 10 minutes or 10 hours, and you wouldn't know the difference. You pass more skulls, some stacked neatly, others not so much. One seems to grin wider than the rest. Another has a crack running right through the temple, like someone tried to break out from the inside. You shake your head. Keep moving. Your flashlight flickers again. This time, longer. You tap it. Nothing. And then it clicks back on, but not before you see something in the darkness. Just for a second. A shadow. No sound. No breath. No footsteps. Just stillness. But you're not alone anymore. Your flashlight beam narrows. You hold it like a weapon now, like maybe it will save you. But all it does is show you more of the same stone bones and the endless tunnels winding away like veins under a city long dead. You try to breathe slow, quiet, but your lungs feel small. The air down here is still stale, heavy with moisture and memory. You keep moving. Not out of confidence, but because stopping feels worse. Somewhere behind you, a drop of water hits the floor. Or was it behind you? Your ears strain, but the catacombs play tricks. Sound bounces weird down here. What is 10 feet away can feel like it is breathing on your neck. What is miles off can whisper in your ear. Another tunnel forks. You hesitate. Then pick one. You don't even try to guess anymore. You just move. That is how the catacombs get you. Not all at once, but inch by inch. Paris. Above ground is mapped, paved, ordered. But down here, it is raw, chaotic. Over 200 miles of tunnels wind beneath the city, only a small portion legal to visit. The rest off limits, uncharted, forbidden. But that is what draws people in. Urban explorers, history buffs, the occasional daredevil. They call themselves cataphiles. They chart the underground world with handmade maps, secret entrances, and coded signs. They know the rules. Never go alone. Never go without a line back. Never trust your memory. And always bring backup light. You broke all four. Up ahead, the tunnel opens into a wider chamber. Relief washes over you, finally space. Maybe even a way out. You step in. The floor squishes. You look down. Mud, water, maybe more. Bones, too. Scattered, not arranged. Loose femurs, a spine half buried. A rib cage broken and scattered like a dropped umbrella. Your flashlight passes over the walls. Graffiti again. But different. Older. Faded French words scratched deep into the limestone. Names you can't pronounce. Symbols that twist the longer you look. You shine your light up and freeze. Hanging above the chamber is a rope, frayed, moldy, and tied to the end a small bell, just swaying slightly, as if someone passed under it moments ago. But the air is still. You step back, slowly, because you're starting to realize something. This chamber wasn't made for burial. It was made to keep things in. You push into another tunnel, heart pounding. You've stopped thinking about escape. Now, you're thinking about survival. You flash your light on the walls, searching for markings, arrows, anything. And then there it is. A small red arrow, painted on the stone. Not fresh, but not ancient either. It points left. You follow. 10 minutes, maybe 20. Another arrow, then another. You're starting to think maybe, just maybe, someone came this way and made it out. You cling to that idea. It's fragile, like a thread. But it is a thread you can follow. You turn one more corner and stop cold. The wall in front of you is blank. No arrow, no tunnel, just stone. You turn around. No arrow behind you either. Gone. Like it was never there. You sit down, not because you want to, but because your legs have started to shake. The flashlight rests in your lap. You tilt your head back against the wall and close your eyes, just for a second. Then a noise, not loud, not far, just a gentle scrape. Stone on stone. Your eyes fly open. The light scans the hallway. Nothing. Then it hits something on the floor. A shoe. Not yours. Worn. Moldy. You stare at it like it might explain itself. Then something moves past the end of the tunnel, just out of view. Too fast to see clearly. Too slow to ignore. You don't scream. Screaming feels useless down here. The catacombs don't care. You just stand. Start walking again. Faster. This time, not caring about arrows or maps or logic. You just move. Behind you, the tunnel breathes. Or maybe you do. The air changes, smells sharper now, like wet metal and old sweat. You pass more bones. This time, loose skulls. Some crushed. One stares up at you, jaw open, like it died mid-sentence. Your flashlight flickers. Not again. Please, not again. But it does. One more flash, then black. Darkness, they say, has weight. You never believed that until now. It presses in on all sides, thick and complete. Not just absence of light, but something that feels alive. Your flashlight gave up its last flicker 20 seconds ago, maybe 30. Time does not make sense anymore. Not down here. You're deep in the Paris Catacombs, now farther than you meant to go. You didn't mark your path, didn't bring a second light, didn't tell anyone the exact entrance you slipped through. The silence down here isn't silence at all. It is a kind of hum, a pressure, the ghost of voices that once filled these tunnels. Maybe not voices, maybe just memory pressing against your ears like cold fingertips. You press your back against a wall of limestone and try to think. Your name. That is a good place to start. You say it out loud, just to remember it, but your voice feels wrong, like it doesn't belong here. The tunnel eats the sound, swallows it whole. You reach into your pocket. Your hands are shaking wet with sweat. Your fingers brush something small and hard. Plastic, a lighter. You flick it. Flame, small, weak, but it is something. The light doesn't reach far. Maybe a foot, maybe two. But even that tiny circle is a comfort. It dances across the wall, illuminating the surface, scratches old graffiti, a rough heart shape drawn by someone decades ago. And then something else. Letters, scrawled low, where only someone sitting like you might see them. Ne regarde pas derrière toi. Don't look behind you. You freeze. The flame flickers, but you don't move. Not yet. It is not just fear now. It is a quiet awareness that you are not alone. You can't hear anything, but you can feel it. A shift in the air, a subtle change in pressure, like a door opening miles away, but still affecting the wind on your skin. You flick the lighter again. The flame is lower now, weak, but still enough to see. You rise slowly, knees cracking, one hand trailing the limestone wall. The bones begin again, neatly stacked this time. Skull, skull, femur, skull. They say there are over 6 million bodies down here, moved from overflowing cemeteries in the late 1700s, stacked like firewood in a desperate attempt to save the city from disease and collapse. Bones were carried in carts by night, accompanied by priests holding candles and muttering prayers. But those prayers didn't follow the bones. They stayed up above. Down here, there is no holy ground, only corridors of the dead. And now, you're one wrong step from joining them. You start walking, slowly. The lighter in your hand throws uneven shadows on the walls, warping the bones into strange faces, stretching skulls into grotesque masks. You try not to look at them too long. Your brain wants to find patterns. It sees things that aren't there. Eyes blinking where there should be none. Mouths opening wider. You tell yourself, it is the shadows. It has to be the shadows. You turn a corner. Another chamber opens up. Low ceiling, maybe 6 feet high. The floor is damp, muddy, uneven. You step forward. The mud grips your foot. You tug it free. Something moves under the surface. Not water, not rats. Just movement. You keep going. In the center of the chamber is something unexpected. A chair, wooden, rotten, completely out of place. Beside it, an old backpack, moldy, partially open. You kneel down and pull it closer. The zipper breaks in your hand, but the flap gives. Inside, a dead flashlight, a notebook soaked beyond reading, a metal whistle, and a Polaroid. You hold it up to the flame. It shows a face, blurry, wide-eyed. The date scrawled underneath 1996. You flip it over. One word entresol. Came in alone. You drop the photo. You don't know why. It just feels like the right thing to do. Suddenly you hear it. A breath. Not yours. You snap around. The lighter's flame flares, startled by the wind. There is no one there. You hope. But then a whisper. From somewhere deep in the tunnel ahead, a sound like cloth dragging over stone, followed by something that might have once been a laugh. A wet, rasping sound. It is not a human laugh. It is the kind of sound that bones make when they remember they were once alive. You back away, slipping in the mud, catching yourself against the wall. The lighter goes out. You don't move. You don't breathe. The sound grows softer, then fades. But the silence left behind feels worse. You sit again. Legs pulled to your chest, the dark pressing in again, and you remember a story, an old one, about a man in the 1960s who wandered in alone, an experienced cataphile, knew the maps, carried 3 lights. They found his camera weeks later. The film was damaged, but one frame showed him staring at the wall, eyes wide, mouth open. Behind him, just shadows, but everyone who saw it said the same thing. Those weren't walls. Those were hands. Hands made of bone. You shake the image from your head. You flick the lighter again. Nothing. Again. Nothing. You're alone in the dark now, for real. You run your fingers along the wall. Feel the texture change. Smooth, then rough, then cold. You find a symbol, carved deep into the stone. A circle with lines branching off like veins. In the center, a tiny triangle. You've seen this before. Cataphiles call it La Rose du Niche, the rose of the niche. They say it is a marker, a boundary between the known tunnels and the places that no one maps, places even the police avoid, places where the walls aren't just limestone. They breathe, they listen, and sometimes they answer. You stand again. You've stopped thinking about rescue, stopped thinking about maps. There is only forward now. The catacombs don't let you turn back. They remember every step you take, every breath you borrow, every moment you hesitate. And if you linger too long, they make a place for you. You hear another whisper. But this time, it is not behind you. It is inside your own head. A simple word. Continue. Your feet move, though you never told them to. The voice, or whatever it was, lingers like fog in your skull. A whisper you didn't hear with your ears, but felt in your spine. Continue. So you do. Not because you're brave, but because there is no other option. The tunnel narrows. The ceiling lowers. You hunch forward, scraping your back against damp rock mud clinging to your boots. The air is stale, touched with mold and that dry mineral smell of time. The lighter's gone, the flashlight's dead. But somehow faint light glows up ahead. Not electric, not natural. It is dim, orange, flickering, like candlelight. You know what you're thinking. Who could be down here with candles? But there are stories. Stories of rooms lit for centuries. Shrines made from bones. Hidden chapels of the dead. And you're about to find one. You crawl through the narrowest passage, yet a stone slit just wide enough for your chest to squeeze through. You wedge your way inside, breath shallow, the limestone brushing your arms. For a moment, you're stuck. Your heartbeat roars in your ears. You push harder, and then the stone gives way. You spill forward into a chamber and freeze, because you are not alone. The room is circular, low ceiling, rounded walls. Everything is made of bone. The walls are lined with femurs, stacked like brick skulls pressed into the gaps. Ribs hang in patterns above you, woven like lattice. In the center, an altar. Not marble, not wood. It is made of vertebrae, balanced perfectly, decorated with small stones, melted candles, a rusted pocket watch, a child's shoe, and around it, figures, 3 of them, cloaked, hooded, still. You can't see their faces. They don't move. They just sit in silence, cross-legged in the dust. You freeze. Every part of your body screams back away. Run. But your legs won't obey. One of the figures tilts its head, not sharply, just slightly, and then they vanish. Not in smoke, not in violence, just gone. Like blinking out of a dream, the candlelight remains, and the altar still stands. But the room is empty now, except for you. You don't speak, you don't breathe. You just walk slowly to the altar, eyes locked on the object sitting at the top. It is a journal, leather-bound, wet at the corners, pages stuck together by time. You open it. Inside sketches, tunnels, maps, symbols, French, Latin, even some English. You flip through until you find one page that hasn't been blurred by age. It reads, La chambre ne doit jamais être dérangée. The chamber must never be disturbed. You close the book. A chill moves through the room, and the candles begin to dim. One by one, you step back. The air is changing again. Heavier, thicker. The silence isn't silent anymore. It pulses. The bones on the wall feel closer. You back away from the altar, hand trembling. And then something shifts behind you. You turn. The tunnel you came through gone. In its place, a solid wall of bone. No exit, no seams, just silence. You're sealed in. Panic rises like a tide. You press your hands against the bone wall, searching for weak spots. A loose skull, a crack. Nothing. Then you remember the triangle symbol, the rose of the niche. You spin around, search the chamber. There, carved into the stone behind the altar, A faded version of the symbol, the triangle at the center, the lines like roots. You press your palm against it. At first, nothing. Then a sound, a click, stone grinding on stone. To your right, a narrow slit opens, just wide enough to squeeze through. You don't hesitate. You crawl inside. This tunnel is different, drier, more stable. The air here doesn't smell like death. It smells like dust and cold stone. And you can feel something. Not fear, not exactly. A presence. You're somewhere old now, older than the city above, older than the cemeteries, older than Paris itself. You emerge into another chamber, smaller, empty, no bones here. Just a single object on a stone pedestal. A mirror, framed in iron, cracked down the center. You approach slowly, and when you look into it, you don't see yourself. You see the tunnel, the one you started in, the street-level entrance, rusted gate, faint moonlight, a way out. But the mirror is just glass. You reach toward it, and your fingers hit stone, solid, no portal, just reflection, a cruel trick. Then behind you, a whisper, closer this time. 3 words. Choose your exit. You turn. A second tunnel has opened behind you. This one is pitch black. No candlelight, no bones, no warnings. Just darkness and the smell of earth. You take one last look at the mirror, at the image of the outside world, then turn toward the black tunnel and step in. The earth shifts. The stone groans. You hear water, not running, dripping. A slow, constant tap, and then light, real light, fluorescent, buzzing. You reach the end of the tunnel, step through, and find yourself in a maintenance room. Concrete, pipes, a ladder bolted to the wall. You climb. Every muscle burns. But you climb. At the top, a grate. You push. It creaks open, and suddenly, air, real air, cars, voices, street lamps, Paris. You drag yourself onto the pavement, collapse. You lie there breathing, staring at the stars, not sure if it has been hours or days. But you're out, alive, for now. Because somewhere far below you, the catacombs still wait, still whisper, still remember your name. You lie on the cold pavement of a quiet Paris street, the kind that tourists never photograph. Your breath clouds the air. The grate you just crawled out of lies half open beside you, innocent looking, unmarked, just another forgotten vent in a city full of them. Above you, the moon is full. Below you, 6 million souls still sleep. But you made it out, didn't you? You close your eyes. Try to let your breathing slow. Try to forget the tunnels, the shadows, the altar made of vertebrae. But you can't, because something followed you out, and it isn't done with you yet. They say once you've been to the catacombs, you're never quite the same. Ask the old cataphiles, the ones who stopped mapping, who sealed off their old entrances, who won't talk about the rooms they found. They will tell you about the dreams, dreams of corridors that stretch forever, of rooms that move, of voices that call from behind the walls. You don't sleep well the first night back, or the second, because every time you close your eyes, you hear it again. Continue. The voice wasn't angry. It wasn't kind either. It was simply certain, like it knew something you didn't, and maybe it did. A week later, you're back home, different continent, different time zone. You tell your friends the story, but not all of it, just the fun parts, the urban exploration, the underground tunnels, the weird art, the skulls. You leave out the altar, the journal, the figures in the candlelight. No one would believe that part anyway. But late at night, when you check your phone gallery, you find something you don't remember taking. A photo. Blurry, dim, stone walls, bones. But in the corner, half in shadow, is a hand. Not yours. Not attached to anything. Just a hand resting on the stone. And beneath it, 3 words scratched into the floor. Still with you. You delete the photo. Turn off your phone. Tell yourself it was a glitch, a prank, something else, anything else. But later that week, you hear a knock on your apartment wall. Not your door, your wall. It is the wall that faces nothing. No neighbor, no hallway, just concrete. You freeze. The knock happens again. 4 taps. Then silence. You knock back because that is what humans do when they are afraid. We engage with the darkness. We try to give it rules. Nothing answers. You wait. Hours pass. Then, at 3:17 a.m., a notification buzzes on your phone. La chambre ne doit jamais être dérangée. The room must never be disturbed. No sender, no number, just that line, just that reminder. You try to sleep again, but something has changed. When you close your eyes, you don't see dreams. You see tunnels, not memories of them live views. Like your mind is being pulled back, stitched into the stone walls like another layer of history. You see a narrow tunnel. You recognize it. The one with the rope and the bell. Except now, the bell is gone. In its place is a photograph. Your photograph. The one you never took, pinned to the stone with a rusted nail. The whispers return, but they are not telling you to continue. They are asking you questions. Where are you now? Do you remember the way back? Did you ever really leave one morning you wake to find dust on your floor? Bone dust. Fine, pale, a perfect trail leading from your closet to the window. You live on the 4th floor. The window doesn't open. It hasn't opened in years. That day, you order salt, candles, a rosary, even though you haven't been to church since you were a kid. You stop turning off all the lights, because in the dark, the walls whisper. And not just in French. Sometimes they whisper in Latin. Sometimes in a voice that sounds very much like your own. Then you make the mistake of going back. Not to Paris, not yet. But you go online. You search the forums, Reddit, archive blogs, dead message boards from the early 2000s. You find people talking about it. The chamber of bone, the altar, the rose of the niche. Some say it is a myth. Others say they have seen it too. A few, very few claim to have entered it and returned, but none of them stay online for long. Their posts end abruptly. Their accounts go silent. And someone always replies beneath them with the same line, La chambre ne doit jamais être dérangée. And always a skull emoji, simple, mocking, permanent. You swear you will stop looking, stop reading, stop thinking about it. But you don't. Because deep down, you understand what the catacombs really are. They are not just graves. They are not just tunnels. They are not even haunted. They are listening. They are curious. And once they notice you, they don't forget. You take precautions now. You avoid dark tunnels. You sleep with the TV on. You leave the bathroom light running just in case. But every few nights, the voice returns. Just once. At the edge of sleep. At the back of your mind. 3 words. Soft. Familiar. Inevitable. Continue the descent. It has been months since you climbed out of that grate in Paris. But the catacombs never climbed out of you. You moved on, or at least pretended to. Back to your routine. Back to emails, and groceries, and that slightly wobbly chair in your kitchen that nobody ever notices except you. Life above ground resumed, except for the nights, because something has changed, not just in you, in the world. You start noticing strange things, patterns, maps that shift, street names that don't match records, conversations that trail off into odd silence when you mention where you've been. And then one evening, you get a package. No return address. Just your name. Inside a key. Old. Brass. Heavy. And a note handwritten in tight, careful French. You left too soon. On the back, a symbol. A triangle, surrounded by branching lines. The rose of the niche. You don't sleep that night. You sit at your desk, key in hand, staring at the symbol. You search every old forum you can find, looking for cataphiles who might have mentioned it. Most threads are dead, some literally, but one buried on an archived website from 1999 offers a clue. A list of entrances, some known, most sealed. But one hasn't been marked closed, just labeled non-catalog, ne pas cartographier, uncatalogued, do not map, and next to it coordinates, not in Paris, but outside it, about 45 minutes by train, in a forest near an abandoned quarry. It is not a tourist site. It is not even listed on Google Maps. But you go anyway. Because of course you do. The train ride is quiet. Too quiet. You sit near the window watching the scenery blur into green. Trees. Fields. Then trees again. You keep the key in your pocket. It feels warmer than it should, like it remembers where it belongs. You arrive at a forgotten station, barely more than a platform and a bench. Nobody else gets off with you. You walk. The path is faint, overgrown. The air smells of moss and something older, deeper. You follow the coordinates on your phone, but the GPS glitches. It loops, spins, then freezes completely. And that is when you see it. A concrete slab, half covered by ivy, embedded in a hillside, a rusted door. No handle, just a lock, a brass lock. The exact shape of the key in your pocket. Your hand shakes as you slide the key in. It resists, then turns. The door groans open. Inside, blackness. But not the same blackness you remember. This is denser, thicker, colder. You step in. The door closes behind you on its own. Locks. You don't even try to stop it. You knew it would. Your flashlight hums to life. Fresh batteries. A stronger beam. But the walls are already familiar. Limestone. Damp. Rough. You're back underground. But this isn't the Paris you remember. This is older, less carved, less civilized. You follow the tunnel, and it follows you. The passage narrows quickly, then opens again into a chamber. This one has no bones, just walls covered in symbols, carved deep, crude. Some look like maps, others like warnings. A spiral, a staircase, a spiral again. A phrase repeated sans nom, sans fun, no name, no end. You shine your light on the far wall and see something impossible. Your name, carved into the stone, not painted. Carved. You didn't do it, at least not that you remember. But the grooves are fresh. The dust hasn't even settled. And beneath it, another line, tu reviens enfin. You finally returned. You back away slowly, your breath catching in your throat. This isn't exploration anymore. This is invitation. Maybe it always was. The floor beneath your feet shifts slightly, just enough to make you stumble. You shine the light down. There is a groove in the stone, a track, like something was rolled through here. Recently. You kneel, touch the dust, still warm, still moving. That is when you hear it. Not a voice, a hum, low, deep, a resonance. It vibrates in your ribs like a chant with no source, like the catacombs are clearing their throat. You press forward, because what else can you do? You reach another door, metal, smooth, too clean. It slides open without a sound, no lock, just a triangle, carved at eye level. Beyond it, stairs, carved straight into the earth, descending, endlessly. You take one last breath and begin to climb down, one step at a time, one heartbeat at a time. And as you go, you count your steps. 37, 82, 112. The air gets colder, but the walls grow warmer. And then just before you reach the last step, you see a light, faint, green, moving, and a voice that isn't a whisper this time. It is a welcome, and it says your name. It speaks your name. Not shouted, not whispered, just spoken. As though it already knew you were coming. As if it had been waiting. The green glow pulses ahead, flickering through the corridor like bioluminescence from deep sea creatures. Your flashlight, still solid in your hand, begins to feel useless, like it no longer belongs in this place. You turn it off, and the tunnel gets brighter. The light comes from no single source. It is as if the stone itself has learned to glow. Faint veins of green shimmer through the walls like moss, but not moss. Like roots, but not alive. Or maybe they are alive, just not in a way you understand. You keep walking because the voice said your name. And when something that old speaks directly to you, you don't ignore it. After a while, the tunnel widens. You step into a chamber. This one is not made of bones or stacked stone. It is constructed precisely, intentionally. The walls are smooth, squared, impossibly ancient. In the center is a pillar, a pedestal. On it sits something small, a disc, about the size of your palm, made of dark stone etched with concentric rings, and a central symbol, the triangle again with lines extending like rays. You reach for it because of course you do. And the moment your fingers touch its surface, the room reacts. Stone shifts. The floor beneath your feet hums. And from the walls, carvings begin to illuminate one by one. You spin slowly, watching them light up. Scenes etched in ancient unfamiliar styles. They show figures descending, like you. They show rooms filled with bones. They show symbols. They show doors. And then one panel shows something different. A figure alone, kneeling before a wall of skulls. Above them, a shape that can only be described as wrong. Angular. Sharp in places it should not be. It watches. And the final panel, that same figure, reaching the surface, but not alone anymore. A shadow clings behind it, long, thin, smiling without a mouth. You step back. The glow dims. The disc is still in your hand. You didn't mean to take it, but now your fingers won't let go. It is warm, vibrating slightly, as if reacting to your pulse. You pocket it reluctantly. The tunnel ahead opens again, this time with stairs. Always more stairs. Down, always down. You begin to descend again, and the voice returns. But it is not your name this time. It is words. Old French, fractured Latin, something older in between, but somehow you understand. You have been marked, you have been measured, and you have been chosen. The stairs end at a door. No lock, just the seam. As you approach, it slides open with a breath, like air being released from a crypt. You step inside, and you freeze. This chamber is vast, bigger than anything you thought could exist beneath Paris. A dome, dozens of meters wide. The walls covered in niches, alcoves cut into stone. Each one holds a skull. Each skull wears a crown. Metal, bone, clay, woven wire. Each crown different. Some ancient, some disturbingly modern. You walk the perimeter, reading the plaques beneath the niches. No names, just numbers and dates. Some stretch back over 1,000 years, others from last week. The air is thick with dust and history and something else. Expectation. The chamber hums softly, like it is waiting for something. And that is when you see it. One niche. Empty. No skull. Just a crown. Simple. Rusted. With a single word etched beneath it. Your name. Your knees buckle slightly. You grip the wall. You try to breathe, because nothing in your life prepared you for this. You back away from the niche, but the hum grows louder. The disc in your pocket pulses again, and the door behind you begins to close. You have a choice. Step into the empty niche, or find another exit. You turn, scanning the dome. There on the far side, a dark tunnel. Low, cracked, barely walkable. It doesn't hum. It doesn't glow. But it doesn't expect you to kneel either. So you run. You squeeze into the tunnel. Scrape your shoulder. Bang your head. But you move forward. The light fades. The humming stops. And you hear something else now. Movement. Not from behind. From ahead. You pause. And then a beam of light hits your face. White. Bright. Blinding. A voice calls out, real. Human. Hey, you're not supposed to be down here. You blink. The light resolves into a helmet. A person. A security guard, number a rescuer. A municipal worker. Maybe Catacombs enforcement. You don't know. You just collapse. And someone catches you. You wake hours later. In a hospital. In Paris. The real one. No tunnels. No glowing rooms. No skulls with your name. You try to explain. But the medics just smile gently. You were found in an old maintenance tunnel, they say. Lucky you were wearing that ID tag. You blink. What ID tag? They hold it up. It is the disc. The black stone. Only now it has your name etched into the surface. No one can read it but you. You take it back, quietly, and say nothing. Because, what would you even say? Later that night, you sit alone in your hotel room. You flip on the TV, but the reflection in the screen catches your eye. Behind you, a shadow, long, thin, smiling without a mouth. You turn. No one there. Just your coat. But the shadow lingers. Not on the wall. In your mind. Because you made a choice. You took something from the catacombs. And now something has taken a piece of you. For a while, life resumes its pattern. Paris continues spinning. Tourists return. Lovers walk the Seine. Cafes serve espresso to the tune of passing scooters and pigeons. Above ground, everything is ordinary. But you're different now. Not visibly, not to strangers. But the change is in the edges. In the way your eyes linger too long in tunnels. In how you flinch when you hear footsteps behind you in places no one should be walking. And at night, when the city grows still and the walls creak with the gentle stretch of old foundations, that is when you hear it again. The humming, the resonance, as if the catacombs are speaking to you from beneath the floorboards, reminding you silence above is not silence below. One evening, while walking through the Latin Quarter, you pause near a familiar square. You weren't planning to stop, but your feet did. You glance around. Everything looks normal, but a woman middle-aged, dressed in charcoal gray, sits on a bench watching you. Not casually, not curiously, knowingly. She nods once as if to say, Yes, we see you now. Then she stands and walks away. You follow because you have to. She leads you down a side street, then another, then through a stone archway behind an old church, barely wide enough for one person. By the time you step through, she is gone. In her place, a man, young, thin, pale, wearing a miner's helmet. He holds out a slip of paper. No words, just a drawn symbol. The rose, the triangle, the veins, and beneath it, a number, 313. You look up. The man is gone. You fold the paper, slide it into your jacket, and begin walking again. That night, you dream. Only it doesn't feel like a dream. It feels like memory. You walk the same tunnels again, the same chambers. Only now they are changed. The skulls don't rest in niches anymore. They move, watch. Some stand in alcoves where there weren't doors before. Some whisper in tongues that don't belong to any century. And at the center of it all is the empty niche. The one with your name. Still waiting. Still humming. Still warm. You wake before dawn. Sweat clinging to your skin like a second shirt. You check the slip of paper again. Room 313. You Google it, nothing useful, no hotels, no catacombs markers, just a record of a door beneath an address on Rue Saint-Jacques. A door that hasn't been opened in decades. Officially, it leads nowhere. Unofficially, it is exactly where you need to go. By nightfall, you're there. The street is quiet, the building vacant, boarded up windows, old stone steps. The door is rusted but not locked. You push it open. Inside, darkness. But of course, you brought your light this time. You flick it on. The hallway inside is short ending in a stone stairwell. Every step echoes too loud. Down you go. And just before you reach the bottom, you see it. Carved into the wall. Faint. Almost invisible. 313. It is not a room. It is a tunnel. Unlike the others. Smoother. Darker. Newer and older all at once. Your light shines ahead. You follow. 30 steps in the walls change. No longer limestone. Now black stone. Shiny. Wet to the touch. You wipe your hand on your pants. But the wetness stays. As if the tunnel wants to mark you. You continue. Because what else is there? Above ground. Life is numb. Below, it is true. And maybe that is what scares you most. Eventually, the tunnel opens into a narrow chamber. Nothing like the others. This one is rectangular, measured, and in the center, a metal table. On it, a small box. Your name is etched on the lid. You hesitate. Of course you do. But you open it. Inside, a roll of film. Old, unused, and a note. Scrawled in thin, rushed ink. This is the last image they'll let you bring back. You stare at the film, then at the room, then back at the tunnel. The walls hum again. Later, you emerge into the open night. You have no memory of the last stare, no idea how you found the street again. But you're holding the box, and your hands smell like earth and iron and something older. You go home, lock the doors, and that night you develop the film. There is only one photo, but when it emerges, you don't breathe for almost a full minute because the photo shows you. Standing in that stone chamber, eyes closed, head tilted, and behind you the altar, the glowing skulls, and 12 figures in a circle, cloaked, watching. And in the corner, the woman from the park bench, smiling, mouth closed, eyes too wide. You pin the photo to your wall. You don't know why, but it feels like the right thing to do. Maybe because some part of you knows this isn't the end. This is the invitation. The catacombs are no longer a place. They are a presence. And you are already inside them, even when you're not underground, because the deeper you go, the more it pulls you in. And some paths, they don't lead back. They only lead down. They say maps keep us sane. That if you can draw, it, trace it, measure it, it becomes real, safe, knowable. But deep below, Paris maps stop working. Because some places don't want to be known. They shift, they wait, they breathe. And you're starting to realize the catacombs were never meant to be explored. They were meant to be remembered, piece by piece, bone by bone. You stare at the photo, still pinned to your apartment wall, the one developed from that ancient film, the one that shows you standing in a room you can't find again. 12 figures surrounding an altar. A woman with wide eyes smiling in the background. You look at the image every morning now, not because you want to, but because you're afraid of what happens when you stop. At first, you tell yourself you will forget it. You will walk away. Let the tunnels fade back into mystery. But the signs keep showing up. The smell of dust in sealed rooms. Water dripping in patterns. 313. People you've never met nodding at you like they recognize your face. You begin to see the symbol again. The triangle, the roots, the rows of the niche, carved into public park benches, drawn in the condensation of windows. Once etched into the frost on your mirror, you wipe it away, but it comes back the next day, always waiting. You return to the forums, the hidden ones, the ones that look abandoned but never truly are. There is a new post. User Mort Sus Pierre. The post is short. 313 is a threshold, not a room. The real map is not paper. Attached is an image, a drawing of a human body. But instead of muscle and bone, the figure is filled with tunnels, catacomb passages, and near the heart, the words, Le labyrinthe te connaît. The labyrinth knows you. You stare at the image until your eyes blur. Then the message disappears. Deleted. You refresh the page. Nothing. But your heart keeps pounding. Because something in you knows it was real. And even worse, it felt personal. You print the drawing, pin it to the wall beside the photo. And the next morning, you wake up to find something new, added to the image. In pen, your initials, right over the center of the heart. You don't sleep well after that. Not just because of dreams, because of the sound. A low hum, like a tuning fork struck deep below your floor. Sometimes you hear footsteps, not above, below, where no one should be. And always, when you check the hallway mirror, you don't just see yourself. You see the room again, the chamber, the 12 figures, and sometimes one of them is missing. As if someone left the circle, as if someone is coming. One night it gets worse. You hear the voice again, soft, familiar, return. You don't know if you heard it or thought it, but your body moves before you decide. Within minutes, you're packed. The disc in your pocket, the printed image in your bag, and your feet led you back to Rue Saint-Jacques. Back to the unmarked door. This time it is already open. No key needed, no hesitation. You step in. It smells like old books and wet limestone. You descend quickly, your steps practiced now, past the first hallway, down the stairwell. But the 3 on 13 tunnel is different. Changed. The triangle symbol glows faintly on the wall. Your flashlight flickers, not broken, just overwhelmed. Like light doesn't work here the same way. You step through. The walls are warm. The stone hums with breath. The air is thinner, but you don't mind, because something inside you is calming down. Like the tension has been reversed. You're not in danger. You're home. This time the chamber is waiting. It is not empty. The 12 are there, cloaked, still. The woman too. And at the center, a second altar. This one is made of mirrors, fractured, tilted, each reflecting a version of you. You as you were. You as you might become. You with no face at all. The woman steps forward. Her voice is barely more than breath. You've been carrying the labyrinth. Now, it will carry you. She places her hand on your shoulder. You don't flinch. You don't ask questions, because you already know. This isn't a secret society. It is not a cult. It is not even a place. It is a memory, a living ancient memory made of stone and bone and echoes that refuse to fade. You kneel before the mirror altar, and your reflection flickers, not like a screen, like a candle in a windless room. And behind you, the 12 begin to chant. Not words, names, not just yours, others, old ones, long ones, forgotten ones. And one by one, their mirrors light. Except yours. Yours stays dark, and the woman speaks again. Yours will light only when you choose to remain. Remain. You stare into the dark reflection and realize what she means. You've always had a choice: to return, to forget, to stay above ground and live halfway in the shadow of what you saw, or to let the catacombs keep you, not as a body, as a guardian, as a voice, as part of the hum. You rise. The mirror stays dark, but the others begin to dim. The figures back away, and the woman smiles again. Not yet, then. And the walls begin to shift. The chamber closes, and the tunnel reopens. You wake up in your apartment again. No idea how you got there. The box still on your desk. The film canister gone. The printed image changed again. Now, the body's chest cavity, the tunnel paths inside it, glow faintly, and your initials, now etched in black, no longer over the heart, now over the mouth. Like you've been speaking something into the world without knowing it. Something older than language, older than fear, older than bones. And once spoken, it can't be taken back. You don't speak about what happened, not to friends, not to strangers, not even to yourself. But silence, you learn, doesn't protect you. In fact, in the world beneath the world, silence summons. A week after the mirror altar, the dreams return. They're less like visions now, and more like transmissions. Bursts of images. A door you've never seen. A corridor that feels like your childhood bedroom, but with skulls lining the baseboards. A voice, always the same voice, speaking a phrase over and over. What was buried must be remembered. Every morning you wake with a new mark. A scrape along your arm that wasn't there the night before. Mud on your socks, though you never left the apartment. Dust beneath your fingernails, chalky white like powdered bone. You start to wonder if you're walking at night. Not sleepwalking, stonewalking. One night, you dream you're underground again. Only this time, you're not alone. Someone walks beside you, not the woman in gray. Someone shorter, younger. They never speak, but they hold a mirror. And in the mirror, you're older, much older. Your eyes look like hollowed coins. And behind you, there is nothing. No tunnel, no world, just black. And a whisper. You are already echo. You wake up gasping, the sheets twisted, your window open, and your bare feet dusty. You try to stay grounded. You start journaling, writing down every dream, every symbol, every detail that sticks. You try drawing the catacombs from memory, but the shapes refuse to stay still. No matter how many times you sketch them, the tunnels shift. Doorways multiply. Chambers appear and vanish. The triangle appears again and again, sometimes inside itself, like a recursive spiral. You overlay each sketch on the others. One day, you notice something terrifying. Each variation, each distortion, has one consistent point. A single X, never moving. You mark it, and then check your old map from the official Catacombs tour. The X falls on an area that doesn't exist anymore. A sealed chamber collapsed decades ago, or so they say. Its original name, Salle de la Voix Perdue, the room of the lost voice. You go quiet after that, withdrawn, somehow hollow. People at work say you seem faded, flickering. You stop checking your reflection, because when you do, your mouth doesn't move in sync. And once, just once, you see something behind you, not in the room, in you. The next time the dreams return, they bring sound, real sound, whispers that carry texture. You can feel breath against your cheek, and the message is clearer now. You've passed through, but the tunnel remains in you. The next morning, your building manager knocks on your door. He asks about the strange vibration complaints from your neighbors. You say you've heard nothing. But when he leaves, you put your ear to the floor, and you hear it. Low, faint, a pulse, as if a tunnel is being dug just beneath your bed. You don't sleep again for 3 days, and when you finally do, you wake up to a knock. Not on the door, on the mirror. 3 taps, slow, measured, deliberate. You don't answer. But the taps repeat the next night, and the night after that. You remove the mirror, store it in the closet. The tapping continues anyway, from the inside. One day, you get a letter. No stamp, no envelope. Just a folded paper tucked under your apartment door. Inside is a simple line, Sally 313 is watching. You feel something inside you tighten. Not fear. Recognition. Like a part of you already knew this. You leave the apartment, walk aimlessly. The city feels thinner. Every sidewalk, a lid. Every manhole, a doorway. Every shadow, a whisper. You stop under a bridge and find something scratched into the concrete. A triangle. And below it, your name. Again. But this time written backward. You call an old contact, someone you met on the forums months ago. They pick up on the first ring. You don't even say hello. You just ask, do the tunnels ever let go? There is a pause, a long one. Then a quiet voice says, no. But sometimes they let you become. That night, you return to Rue Saint-Jacques, not out of curiosity, not out of fear, but out of purpose. You walk the stairs, past the triangle, and instead of turning into Tunnel 313, you place your hand on the wall beside it. It is warm, alive, and it opens, a seam splitting silently to reveal a passage you never saw before. It smells like nothing, a blankness, like pure memory waiting to be assigned. You walk in, and behind you, the wall seals shut. The chamber at the end is empty. No figures, no candles, just one mirror, broken, leaning against the wall. You walk up, and for the first time, you don't see yourself. You see the labyrinth, in motion, tunnels breathing, shifting, and in the center of it all, a room made of nothing but whisper, and you understand. You've crossed the bone line. You're not an explorer anymore. You're part of the map. A tunnel someone else will find one day, and when they do, you will be the one who whispers. There are 2 kinds of doors in the catacombs. The ones you enter physically, stone doors, rusted, great tunnels you crawl through with shaking limbs and borrowed courage. And then there are the other doors, the ones inside you. You didn't choose to open that second kind, not really, but once it opened, nothing else could close it. Not sleep, not daylight, not even forgetting. Because forgetting is a luxury the catacombs no longer allow you. It starts with a whisper you can't quite hear. A voice just under language, always just outside your awareness. You feel it most when you're alone in small rooms, elevators, stairwells, your apartment bathroom. The voice never says anything clearly, not at first, but it moves. Behind your mirror, inside your faucet, under your bed. Sometimes you feel it in the gaps between your thoughts, When you forget what you were doing or why you walked into a room, it slips into the cracks. And when it speaks, it doesn't use sound. It uses memory. You begin to lose time. An hour here, 2 there. Nothing dramatic, just little slips. You pour coffee and then look up to find the cup empty. You leave your jacket on a chair, but hours later it is dusted in white powder. You open your phone gallery and find new pictures. None of them of you. All of them underground. Dim, silent, familiar. A corridor with an arched ceiling. A room with no floor, just an endless drop. A set of footprints in the dust leading away. You try to delete them. They reappear the next day. You go to a doctor, not for help, just to say it out loud. He listens politely, smiles carefully, then asks how long you've been experiencing hallucinations. You don't answer. You know this isn't that. You're not sick. You're in. And the deeper in you go, the fewer people you can talk to, because they haven't heard the voice. They haven't touched the warm walls. They haven't felt watched by stone. But you have. And that means something has changed permanently. One night, you find yourself standing in front of your hallway mirror. You don't remember walking there. You're just suddenly there. And this time, your reflection is different. Not frightening. Not monstrous. Just not you. It smiles slightly. And then it reaches forward. You do not. It does. Its hand presses against the glass from the other side. And the mirror hums. A soft, bone-deep sound. And then it cracks. Just once from corner to corner. Like a door. Opening inward. You fall asleep, sitting up. And dream a new dream. You're in a chamber again, but this time you're seated. At a long stone table. And across from you are faces. Not cloaked. Not hidden. Clear. Human. One is the woman in gray. One is the man with the film. One is yourself. But older. Hollowed. Still. Each version of you holds something different. A map. A key. A stone disc. A tooth. And they all speak the same phrase at once. You are the door. You wake up cold and find something new beneath your pillow. A bone. Small, human, still warm. You no longer pretend this is normal, but you don't panic. Panic is a surface emotion, and you're too deep now for the surface to reach you. Instead, you begin to write, not for others, for the catacombs. You write your memories backwards. You sketch the tunnels without looking. You list names you don't remember learning. Sometimes they rhyme. Sometimes they pulse. Sometimes they are just dates etched into your notebooks in the dark while you sleep. You don't even notice until morning. But they always match real deaths. People buried. People lost. People found again. One entry shakes you. It simply reads, Using passage, threshold, date approaching. You don't know what that means. But the next day, the floor of your apartment cracks slightly near the corner. A fracture, thin, but growing. like something beneath you is remembering how to climb. You leave the city, temporarily. You rent a cottage outside Paris, rural, isolated, no basements, no tunnels. But on the first night, you wake up to a noise. Not in the house, outside. You open the door, step into the yard, and there, just beyond the grass, an old well. You don't remember it being there, but it is marked with the triangle, with your initials, and with a rope dangling down into the dark. You don't go near it, but you don't leave either. You simply understand. Even out here, the catacombs breathe, because they are not just under Paris, they are under you. You come back to the city a few days later. You feel lighter. Not because you've escaped anything, but because you've accepted it. You're not being chased anymore. You're being guided, and that changes everything. You walk the streets with quieter steps now, like a messenger or a memory. And as you pass others, you start to notice something new. Some of them see you, not look at you, see you, and they nod, just slightly, just enough. You nod back, and the whisper returns, this time not inside you, not around you, but from someone else, a young man on a train. He turns to you and says, third descent's always the last. And then he smiles, as if he didn't say anything at all. You never told anyone what really happened beneath Paris. Not fully. Not the mirror altar. Not the shifting tunnels. Not the faces you saw your own reflected and rewritten in silence. But it doesn't matter now, because the catacombs are telling other people. You start noticing it in strangers. A woman on the metro, humming the same tune you once heard in the tunnels, the one you thought was just in your head. A delivery driver, eyes locked with yours, tracing a triangle in condensation on his bike helmet. Even a child drawing with sidewalk chalk, sketching the rows of the niche with impossible precision. You don't react anymore. You just observe, because now you understand. The descent isn't always physical. Sometimes it is inherited. Sometimes it is shared. Sometimes it is borrowed. And this descent, this one isn't yours. The signs appear slowly at first. A co-worker, someone quiet, someone you've never noticed, starts arriving late, pale, withdrawn. You hear them muttering in the stairwell one day, not in French, not in any language you know. But the cadence is familiar, that broken, rhythmic Latin, the voice from your dreams. You try to ignore it, but when you pass their desk, you see a printout peeking from their bag. It is the body map, the one you once pinned to your own wall, but with their initials marked on the heart. You don't confront them. You just walk away, and you start writing again. Because the catacombs need witnesses, and now you're one of them. One night walking home, you feel a shift. The ground beneath your feet goes soft, not collapsing, just loose, like you're walking on memory instead of stone. You glance behind you. No one. But the air feels denser, thicker. The smell of dust and damp. The scent of arrival. You don't look down until you're home. When you do, your boots are coated in pale fine powder. Bone dust. Again. But this time, there are footprints behind yours. Just one set, small, barefoot, following. You dream again. This time, it is not your perspective. You watch through another's eyes. They're underground, crawling, afraid, new to it all. And you're not beside them. You're ahead of them, a shadow leading them forward. You don't speak, but they follow anyway. And when they reach the niche, the one that once bore your name, it is empty. The crown is gone, but something new waits there, a box. And when they open it, they see your face, smiling, mouth closed, eyes too wide, just like the woman you once followed. You wake up with tears in your eyes and a name in your mouth. Not yours, theirs. Someone you've never met, yet somehow you're responsible for them. The next day, your building's lobby has changed. Barely, just enough. The lights hum with a different tone. The tiles form patterns you didn't notice before. Bones, skulls, patterns only visible from a certain angle. When you walk upstairs, you smell damp stone again. And when you unlock your apartment, a folded paper is waiting inside. It is a map, hand-drawn. Tunnels, chambers, a date circled, tomorrow, and a phrase written in that same spindly hand. You must guide them, or they'll be lost forever. You don't sleep that night, not because you're afraid, because you're preparing. You pack the old gear, flashlight, batteries, the disc, a small notebook, and something you never thought you'd use again. The original coordinates, back to the first entrance. The grate in the alley. You arrive at dawn, and someone is already there. A boy, 19, maybe 20. Nervous, hands trembling, wearing the wrong shoes. You don't speak right away, you just nod. He nods back, and together, without a word, you descend. It is different this time. The tunnels open more easily, as if they remember your weight, your pulse, your offer, and the boy. He walks without hesitation. You guide him, past the bones, past the chamber of whispers, past the hums and the humming, until you reach the junction, the place where you once chose the door of mirrors. You pause. He doesn't. He steps through. And you know this descent was never yours. It was his. You were just the echo leading him home. You wait outside the chamber, listening. You don't hear chanting this time. You hear silence. Then footsteps. He returns minutes later, eyes glassy, hands open, carrying the crown you once saw in your dream. It is changed. Now it bears his name. You both leave. No words, no fear, just understanding. And as you reach the surface again, he turns to you and says, "It knows I am ready now. Thank you." And then he is gone, vanished into morning. You walk home slowly, something light in your step. Not relief, not pride, peace. Because now you know your role. You're not the first. You won't be the last. But you were needed, and you answered. And sometimes that is enough. The catacombs don't always take. Sometimes they call, and if you listen, they teach you how to carry the silence. It begins with a scent, not something strong, not even unpleasant, just familiar. Wet limestone, dust that hasn't moved in centuries, a hint of something metallic, like old coins in a forgotten pocket. You smell it while you're brushing your teeth, or checking your phone, or staring at a wall you've stared at 1,000 times before. And with it comes a picture, not in your mind's eye, in your body, your feet. Remember a turn in a tunnel. Your knees ache in a rhythm that matches the descent of stairs you've never climbed. Your back flinches from the memory of crawling through stone that never touched your skin. They aren't your memories, but they live inside you now. One night, it becomes unbearable. You lie in bed, still, quiet. The city hums softly in the distance, and in your ears, nothing. But your hands won't stop trembling. You close your eyes, and the room is gone. You're beneath again, not dreaming, not hallucinating, just there. Walking corridors you've never entered, seeing people you've never met, touching stone that pulses like flesh, and in your palm, a name. You don't read it, you feel it. It is not yours, but it belongs to you now. The next day, you can't concentrate. You cancel plans. You unplug your phone. You sit on the floor of your apartment with your notebook open, and you begin to draw. Not tunnels, faces, one after another. Each face different, each with a name. You don't know where they come from, but they arrive urgent and fully formed. Some weep, some smile, some are shrouded. One wears the mirror crown, another wears a crown of keys. You fill 20 pages, and on the final one, a single word writes itself, as if your hand is no longer your own. Archivist, archivist. You don't know what it means, not exactly, but you understand its weight. A keeper of memory, of tunnels, of names, the one who doesn't just survive the catacombs, but remembers for them. Your job isn't to escape. It is to witness, to carry what others forget, to be the vault that stone alone cannot hold. You think back to the boy, to his eyes as he returned from the mirrored chamber. You realize now, you knew that moment. You'd seen it before. You'd been it before. And maybe you will again. The days grow strange. Time flexes. You wake and find things moved. Chalk drawings on your kitchen floor. Dust piles shaped like letters. You hear tapping again, not from the mirror this time. From inside your own mind. Like a Morse code, only your nerves can hear. You start writing again. This time, not in words. Symbols. Ancient, circular, recursive. Each one nested within the next. You don't know the language, but it feels correct. Like writing a lullaby in a forgotten tongue. For an audience of bones, you receive another message. Left beneath your doormat. No envelope. Just a film photo. Black and white. An image of a spiral staircase, one you've never seen. Its steps curve endlessly downward, disappearing into shadow. On the back, a time, midnight, and 2 words, return inward. You hesitate, not because of fear, But because this time there is no guide, no stranger in a helmet, no woman in gray, no map, just the memory that doesn't belong to you, pulling you forward. At 11:50 p.m., you're already on the move. The city feels paused, not asleep, just holding its breath. The usual alley is closed, but you find another, one you've never noticed. Its walls are marked faintly with soot, and above it, scratched into a drainpipe, the triangle waits. You step through, and the world narrows. The staircase is there, exactly as in the photo. Its stone is darker than the rest, almost obsidian. It hums, a low, slow rhythm, like a heartbeat in molasses. You descend slowly. Each step seems longer than the last. Time drips sideways. Your thoughts unravel, and then you stop. Not because you choose to, because the stairs end. You're in a chamber, but it isn't stone. Not entirely. It is soft, breathing, alive. The walls pulse slightly with each breath you take, and in the center, a pedestal. On it, a journal, leather bound, familiar. You pick it up and find your handwriting inside. Only they aren't your entries. Not from this life, not from this time, not from this you. But every word, every drawing, it is exactly your style, exactly your flow. And you know, without question, you've written this before. Somehow, some when. Some version of you once was the archivist, and maybe still is. You return to the surface with the journal. No memory of the ascent, just a sudden blink and daylight. Your hands ink-stained, your eyes sore. You sit in a cafe that afternoon, sipping bitter coffee, staring at the notebook. And for a brief second, you see your reflection in the window. Not moving, not blinking, just watching. You don't flinch, you nod, and the reflection nods back. You've made peace with it now. The descent is no longer a fall. It is a function. You're no longer lost. You are the hallway. You are the mirror. You are the memory that no longer belongs to one person. And in time, someone will descend again. And you will be there. In the hum, in the silence, in the moment, the map disappears and only memory remains. The city forgets everything. It forgets names, faces, stories. It paves over churches with office buildings. It builds cafes where executions once drew crowds. It covers plague pits with flower boxes and quiet gardens. But the bones remember. And if you walk softly enough, the bones will let you hear them. You've stopped checking clocks, stopped measuring your life in days or weekends or scheduled alarms. Time no longer behaves the way it used to. Now, your time unfolds in layers. Dreams overlap with waking. Memories arrive from angles you can't trace. You remember events you never lived and forget moments that happened this morning. One afternoon, you look at your reflection and notice a scar under your chin. You don't remember getting it, but you remember healing from it. in a corridor that doesn't exist anymore. That night, the city hums louder than usual. Not traffic, not wind, something deeper, more intimate. The resonance of 1,000 conversations buried beneath centuries of concrete. You sit by your window and close your eyes. And in that soft, humming dark, you feel yourself split. Not in pain, just separation. Part of you remains in the room, breathing, still. And another part walks the tunnels again, not with legs, with memory. You're drawn to a chamber lined with tiles, none of them matching. Each tile is etched with a name, not famous names, just fragments. Mathieu, Elise, Alain. Names the city forgot, but not the catacombs, never the catacombs. In the center of that room, you find a mirror, cracked into 7 pieces. Each shard shows a different you. One asleep, one laughing, one covered in dust, one without eyes, one walking backwards, one staring at a candle, and one looking right back at you. Mouth closed, eyes too wide. You kneel, and the shards vibrate, not in fear, in recognition. You place your hand on the floor. It is warm. It pulses once, and the names on the tiles begin to glow, one at a time, one heartbeat at a time. When you wake, your apartment is different, not drastically, just the details. The lamp is in the wrong place. The mirror leans left instead of right. A pair of shoes sits by the door shoes that aren't yours. And on your desk, the cracked mirror, the same one from the chamber, now whole, now waiting. You understand what it means. You've brought part of the catacombs up with you. The descent has become a return, and the bones remember. The next day, you go for a walk. Nothing planned. You let your feet choose. They take you through side streets you never noticed, past windows with curtains that twitch before you can look inside. You pause at a crosswalk, and on the signal box, someone has scratched a message the city forgets. Keep walking. You do. Because you've learned forgetting is dangerous. Not because it erases you. Because it unbinds you. Without memory, there is no shape to your story. And if your story dissolves, the tunnels come to claim it. Not as punishment, as preservation. That night, you try to write again. You open the journal you once brought to the mirrored altar. The pages are full. None of it is your handwriting, but every word is familiar. You read a sentence aloud, and the lights in the room dim. Not flicker, dim, like they are listening. You speak another sentence, and the walls hum. Like a choir underground, you whisper a third, and your own voice responds echoing from nowhere. Not a recording, not a hallucination, just memory. The bones remember your words, and now they speak with your voice. You stop reading, but the echo continues, a low, soft litany of your thoughts. Moments you never wrote down, secrets you never told. You sit perfectly still and listen, not with your ears, with your bones. You hear footsteps, slow, measured, You don't turn around because you know there is nothing behind you. There is only within. And that is where the descent always ends. Not in the dirt, not in the tunnels, but in the chambers no map can chart. The ones inside you, the ones made of everything you forgot until now. The next morning you find your name carved outside your door, small, clean, alongside a date, not today's, a future one. You know what it means. Another descent is coming. Another archivist is being born. And you're becoming the threshold, not the story, the doorway. You breathe slowly. You make tea. You sit by the window and watch the city forget. People walk by, heads down, lives full of noise. You smile. Because the bones don't need anyone to believe. They just need someone to remember. And you do. You always will. You live in two places now. One is the Paris everyone knows. Cafes and rain, crowds and horns, the scent of bread and smoke and memory. The other exists beneath it, not a second city, a second self. And some mornings you forget which version of you is real. You begin to move differently, not with caution, but with awareness. You walk with your ear tilted not to traffic, but to vibration. Your hands brush walls to catch stories left in the stone. You learn that certain manholes hum differently, that alleyways remember names even if signs do not. You're no longer surprised when a stranger mouths your name without speaking, or when pigeons land in shapes that match your old maps. You no longer ask why. The question now is when. When will you be needed? When will the door open again? When will the bones speak a name only you can carry? You keep a bag packed, not for travel, for return. It contains only 4 things: a notebook, a small flashlight, the disc, and a single smooth stone from a tunnel you swore never to revisit. You keep it near the door. You don't touch it unless called, but some nights it pulses slightly, just enough to wake you, just enough to remind you that the catacombs are never closed, only resting. You begin to understand time differently. It is no longer linear. It loops. You start dreaming of faces you haven't seen, yet people who look at you like they already know the end of your story. You meet one of them on a Tuesday. He asks if you remember the chalk symbol in the market, the one behind the oranges. You nod without thinking, and he smiles. I knew it was you, he says, then walks away. You never saw him before, but you're sure he has been in your dreams for months. He carries a satchel with the triangle symbol drawn in dust, and beneath it, your initials. You reread the journal, not your entries, the ones that came after. They're different now. The handwriting shifts. One page smells like salt water. Another bleeds faint red ink that never dries. One entry simply reads, "The world isn't round. It is layered." You begin to understand that history isn't beneath us because it is old. It is beneath us because it is waiting. Because some stories can't live in the daylight. They need pressure, silence, time, bones. One evening, you feel it again. That gentle tug at your chest, the sign you're being summoned, not urgently, not as a warning, as a reminder. You walk to a familiar cafe, the same one where the woman in gray once watched you. You sit at her old table. The waiter brings you tea before you speak. He places a folded paper under the cup. You sip, then unfold it. It simply says, "Passage reopens at dawn," and below it, "They will not remember without you." You don't finish the tea. You leave money anyway and walk into the night heart slower, heavier, because you know this descent might be different, final in some way, not an ending, just a return to where something began. You don't sleep that night. You pack the bag, light the candle, draw the circle, and wait. You hum a tune you don't remember learning, and the apartment breathes with you. When the sun begins to rise, you step outside. The sky is the color of forgotten letters. The wind hums like a tunnel, sighing. You make your way back to Rue Saint-Jacques. The door is open, no key, no lock, just shadow. And within it, silence, not empty, full. You step inside, and the world narrows to bone and breath and memory. Again. This time, you don't need a flashlight. The tunnels know you now. They reveal only what you need to see, nothing more. A turn here, a pause there. You reach the threshold, and waiting beside it, a girl, maybe 14. Eyes too wise, hands too still. She doesn't speak. She holds a mirror, unbroken. She offers it to you. You nod once, take it carefully, and carry it into the dark, because this time you are the guide. Maps are made for surfaces, for straight lines and flat roads, for sidewalks and highways and postal routes. They're made for the world above, where things obey logic and angles and distance. But beneath the city, the world doesn't behave, and neither do the bones. You've learned this the quiet way, over time, by listening to the hum beneath your feet and watching how your footsteps echo differently depending on what the walls remember that day. Because the places maps forget, those are the places that never forget you. She walks behind you without asking questions. She carries the mirror like it was always hers. The glass catches no reflection, only vibration, a faint shimmer, a pulse that isn't quite light. You don't lead her the way a guide would. You walk like someone who is retracing, not creating a path. Because this isn't a tour. This is a memory, and the catacombs remember her. They remember everyone. The first chamber is familiar. The ceiling arches like a cathedral. Only the ribs are made of stone. Once, this place frightened you. Now, it feels like a hallway in a home you don't live in anymore, but sometimes dream about. Bones line the walls in the shape of an eye. You pause there just a breath. She touches one of the bones gently and whispers something you don't catch, but the walls respond, softly. A breeze where there should be none, a shift in dust, the echo of a lullaby you forgot years ago, not because she has power, but because she is meant to be here. You move deeper. The spiral corridor, the mirrored niche, the corridor that changes width depending on how loudly you breathe. Each one welcomes her. The stones are warmer near her footsteps. The air doesn't bite like it used to. You feel the catacombs recognizing her adapting. And you feel yourself fading slightly the way a candle dims when the sun rises. Not extinguished, just no longer necessary. Eventually, you reach the chamber of the archive spiral. You've only dreamed it before, until now. The bones here are arranged in a circle, layer after layer of femurs, skulls, clavicles, not stacked, but woven. In the center sits a chair. Stone, black, smooth. You've never touched it. You never needed to. But she walks forward, without fear, without hesitation. She sits. The mirror in her hands flickers, then stabilizes. She closes her eyes, and the room holds its breath. You stand at the edge, still, watching, not guarding, witnessing. The spiral begins to hum. First softly, then with rhythm, like a second heartbeat rising beneath your own. You feel something old stirring beneath your feet, a pulse of recognition. The catacombs are listening. She begins to whisper now, not in French or Latin or any spoken tongue. It is something older, lower, a vibration carried through her bones, and the spiral glows faintly at each whisper, like a string of memories being plucked into song. Then the walls begin to move, not violently, not threateningly. They shift like curtains pulled by a wind no one else can feel, revealing a hallway you've never seen before. No bones, no dust, just smooth, featureless stone. This is not a place on any map. Not even the secret ones passed from explorer to explorer. This place doesn't exist until someone like her arrives. You take a step forward and feel resistance, a gentle push, the kind you get from a memory trying to stay forgotten. You stop. This is not your passage. She opens her eyes, looks at you, and smiles. It is the kind of smile that says, "You've done enough." You nod once, step back, and the hallway closes behind her, just like that, like it was never there, and in its place, silence, a silence that hums with gratitude. You sit in the dust. The stone feels warmer now, more like skin than rock. You reach into your bag, take out the old journal. You flip through pages filled by hands not your own. Drawings, symbols, names, dates that haven't happened yet, and one line repeats over and over. The city forgets. The tunnels do not. You lose track of time. Maybe minutes pass, maybe hours. Eventually, you hear footsteps again, but not hers. Someone else, a man older than you, eyes wide, carrying a stone disc like the one you once held. He doesn't speak. He simply nods at you and places the disc at the foot of the spiral, then leaves. You realize he is not here for her. He is here for another. And that is when it finally settles in. You're not the archivist anymore. You're the witness. A different role. Quieter. Heavier. Necessary. The spiral dims. The chair empties. And in its place, one final object. A mirror. Not hers. Yours. The one you gave up long ago. Now whole. Now waiting. You pick it up. And this time, it reflects not your face, but the tunnel behind you. And in that reflection, you see all the others. The boy, the woman in gray, the countless unnamed, all moving forward, each with the mirror in their hands, and each with the same expression, knowing. You return to the surface slowly. The city is still the city. It always is. No one notices you emerging from the hidden grate. No one pauses to feel the air shift. But you do. You feel it in your bones, in the way the light touches your skin differently now. Not harsh, not warm, just aware. You walk home. Each step, like turning a page in a book you once wrote in someone else's hand. You open your door, and there on your desk, a folded piece of paper. You haven't been here since before the descent, but the paper is fresh, clean. It reads, "Maps forget, but you remember." And beneath that, just one more line, there is still more beneath. You sit down, place the mirror on the desk, and begin writing again. Not for yourself, not even for her, but for the one who will come next, because there is always a next. And they will need a map, not of roads, but of bones. And now, finally, you know how to draw that. Some names fade when spoken. Others echo through time, through stone, through silence. Yours is starting to echo now, not loudly, not like a shout, more like a hum that won't go away. It doesn't matter where you are above or below. It follows, softly repeating itself, not as a question, but a presence. You hear it when water runs through pipes, when the metro breaks too long at a stop, when you're alone in a stairwell and your heart beats louder than it should. You don't need to speak your name anymore. The catacombs remember it for you. You dream again. Not like before, not flashes. This time it is sustained. You're walking through a long, straight tunnel. Your shadow is ahead of you, not behind. It moves as you move, though the light is dim and the source unclear. The walls are lined with books instead of bones. Spines made of polished vertebrae. Pages that rustle, even when untouched. You take one down. There is no title. Just a single phrase handwritten inside. You left the door open. You wake up with your hand extended, still reaching for the book, and your fingers smell faintly of dust. Your reflection starts behaving differently again. In the morning light, it lingers a second too long after you move. At night, it blinks when you don't. One evening, brushing your teeth, you glance up and see a symbol drawn in condensation on the mirror. The triangle, with a name written inside. Your name, but also not. A version of it older, etched in a script that curves like a spinal column. And below it, a date. Not one you've lived. Not yet. You wipe it away. It doesn't come back. But you still remember the shape. The city continues its forgetting. A bakery closes overnight. No warning. The walls freshly painted by morning. A statue disappears from a courtyard. The pedestal remains. You ask someone about it. They shake their head. There was never a statue here, but you remember it. A figure holding a lantern, eyes cast down, stone robes etched with names. You check your notebook. It is sketched there 3 weeks ago. Before it vanished. That is when you realize you're not just remembering for the catacombs. You're remembering for the city, for the skin of the world above that sheds its past like ash. And someone has to carry that. You start writing names again, not ones you know, ones you feel. They come as whispers when you wake, or carved into subway grime, or scrawled in chalk on school walls before the rain washes them clean. You write them in your journal, one by one. They come in waves. Some feel heavy. Some feel lost. One name keeps returning, Aristea. You've never met anyone by that name, but every time you write it, you hear footsteps behind you. Measured, barefoot, confident. You never turn around. You don't need to. You know she is coming. The hum becomes a song, not a melody, just tone. Pure, resonant. You hear it in your dreams, in your bones. You begin to hum it without realizing. In the shower, on the street, while stirring soup. Strangers glance at you oddly. A woman hums back, then walks away with tears in her eyes. You never see her again. But you write her name down too. You visit the spiral chamber again, not physically, just in memory. You close your eyes, and you're there. Every detail exact. You sit in the chair, feel its weight beneath you. The spiral glows slightly, and you whisper your own name. The way the catacombs say it, the way it was before, and the echo that comes back isn't yours. It is 1,000 voices saying it together. All the versions of you, all the pasts that fed into this one. And you understand now you were never alone in your descent. Not really. You return to Rue Saint-Jacques one last time. The entrance is gone, sealed, not with stone, with forgetting. Where the grate once lay, now only cobblestone. But you know better. You press your palm to the stone, close your eyes, and feel it breathe beneath you. Still alive, still listening, still open for those who remember how to knock. At home, your mirror is missing again, replaced by a black circle on the wall. You trace it with your finger. It feels warm, alive. You whisper into it, I remember. And something on the other side exhales, not words, just trust. You don't need to descend anymore. You've brought it all with you. You are the descent now. Every breath you take, every word you write, every step through the forgotten corners of the city, you carry it like a second spine, like a secret only the world underneath can read. And on the final page of your journal, you write, not everything buried is meant to rest. Some things wait, some things remember, and some things become you. Then you close the book, turn out the light, and let the hum guide you to sleep.